the realities are that the majority of illegal drugs coming into this country are coming in through legal ports of entry.
Yes.
Most terrorism in this country are committed by homegrown domestic terrorists, overwhelmingly white men. Our country and our community is founded by immigrants, is better with immigrants, and we need to call this policy what it is. It's racist.
Racist.
And it is an effort to suppress people that don't look like this administration, because you look at the administration, it certainly doesn't look like the beautiful sea of people that are in this crowd.
We're not liars.
And so we want to make sure that we talk about all of the immigrant communities, because Georgia is better with immigrants. And so today we have our friend Glory Kalatu here. She represents an organization called Women Watch Africa. Thank you, Glory.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Glory Kilanko, and I'm the founder and director for Women Watch Africa. I'm sure standing in front of you, you understand that I am an immigrant. And I represent refugees and immigrants who toil every day to make this country great. We work hard. On Saturday, I was having a class with my women, and we talked about this emergency wall. And I told them there is no emergency except that the number 45 have declared war against us refugees and immigrants. A woman who speaks no words of English, she cannot read and write. She is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. She kept quiet and was sobbing really bad. She cried, and through the help of the interpreter, she said to me, "Miss Glory, what have we done? When are we going to have peace on earth? This administration, America, is part of the reason why we are here. They have destroyed our countries. They make us to become refugees. We are dying every day. Our women are being raped. Now we are here, and the government is fighting us. When are we going to have peace?" I did not have an answer to give her. All I told her was that there are some Americans like you all in this crowd who will stand up and defend the rights of voiceless and powerless refugees and immigrants. I'm happy today to see you all out here coming out in our support. Let me also remind that White House was built by black people. My ancestors labored in this country. They toiled night and day, built the penitentiaries that they put my people. We built the railroads. We built everything in this country. Mr. 45 is married to an immigrant. She did not come through the border. She flew into this country. Mr. 45's parents are immigrants. He is an immigrant. Can anybody help me tell him that he does not even know where he comes from?
Yes.
If he knows, he will have strong respect for immigrants. He is a dictator.
Yes.
He has just plotted a coup d'etat against this country. And we must stand up to resist it. We must not allow it. This is a coup d'etat against our constitution. The American Constitution has separation of powers. We must challenge our elected officials. Where are they? I took the civic test to become an American citizen. And one of the questions is the separation of powers. Where stand our elected officials? Are they sleeping? The Constitution is being eroded. We must stand in the defense of our Constitution. We need no walls. We need no boundary. The attack that is out there is the attack on my people who are struggling. My people who are trying to cross the border for a better life. My people who are being caged. The separation of children from their parents. That we watch children crying, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy," as they are being torn apart from their mothers. That is the devilish act of somebody who calls himself the #1 citizen of the world. This is an attack. The world is watching us. The world is watching us. Mr. 45 is writing a negative history that will do America no good. So the people of this country should be prepared to challenge that, both in court and also within civil justice. We cannot allow this to continue. My women refuse to come here today because they are afraid. My women are living in fear. They have been forced out of their country. They cannot even live in the community. We are no longer safe. Only last week, 250 immigrants were arrested in North Carolina. 250 in North Carolina. And these are the things that is going on. How many do I want to count? What is important to know that no justice,
No peace.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Clary.
Hold Georgia, that senator's accountable. Isaacson and Purdue, hold them accountable.
Isaacson and Purdue, where are you? Isaacson and Purdue, where are you?
Cowards. Ask business.
Okay, so we have one more speaker before we close. I want to invite Hillary Holly to come up. Hillary's with Fair Fight Georgia, and while she's coming up, I want to tell you a little bit about that. We're talking about this unjust, fake emergency. They're trying to tip the scales of power. They're trying to take over the courts. They're trying to take over all branches of our government, and now they're trying to take away our vote. And we've got to fight here in Georgia to preserve our rights at the ballots so we can vote them out.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. First and foremost, I'm here in solidarity with those who are being directly impacted by this administration's policies. I am also here as someone who is an eligible voter, so I'm talking to those who want to use their right to vote as an ally to the immigrant community who may not have the right to vote. So, as you all know, the 2018 elections in Georgia went terribly. We have got to vote this man out of office. We need to continue to elect people who are allies to immigrants and refugees and undocumented people. However, we cannot do so if we do not have a fair chance. So I just wanted to say a quick little plug. The Republicans introduced a bill, HB 316. They want to purchase the same voting machines who have, we have. So in 2018, there were instances where people's votes would go from one candidate to another. There were 100,000 votes.
No way.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so hundreds of thousands of votes dropped off, many of which were black voters. So what I'm saying is we need to make sure that all these bills that you cross are struck down. So we can look at I took it off.
Build the wall.
This is just a trigger for your racism. It's just a trigger for their racism. All this stuff is fake. That Jesse stuff. Look, America. We're in America. It's an Iran, a Palestinian flag.
No fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate.
Hey, I welcome immigrants. I welcome immigrants. Welcome immigrants are welcome. Immigrants are welcome here.
No
I
fear.
welcome immigrants.
Welcome here. No hate.
I want
fear.
I hunt
Immigrants are welcome here. No hate. No fear. Immigrants
Build the wall. Build the wall.
No fear. Immigrants are welcome.
Where? My country? You want me to leave? It's a free country. You want to invite illegal immigrants, but I can't stay here? I'm a citizen. I pay taxes. I'm a business owner.
We don't want
Build the wall. Build the wall. It's not your damn business. Build the wall.
Get rid of him, would you?
Oh yeah, use mob tactics, just like Democrats, just like everyone else. Cheese.
Get him in here. Get him down.
I encourage build the wall. Why? To
Separate nobody.
build the wall. Why? Because we need it. We need illegal immigration to stop. We also need all this funding for illegal immigrations. We need to take care of America first. America first. America first.
You said I pay taxes, so you believe the immigrants don't pay taxes? That's your
No, I'm sure they do. I'm sure that they pay taxes.
So?
Neither do you. Please. Oh yeah, you're so wise. You're so wise.
So good at that.
Okay. Oh, you're standing out here, please. I'm standing out here just like you are.
We'd like to see
I bet you would. I'd disrupt your party. Build the wall. Build the wall. Build the wall. Excuse me.
He's here taking a stand of the president on this President's Day rally. Again, more than 100 people gathered here. You guys
Don't continue using immigrants as a scapegoat, as a borderline, as a battleground. This fight is not about the war, but about the destruction of democracy, civil rights, and
Please don't touch me. Build the wall. Get out of here.
Why do you want the wall? Why do you want the wall?
Build the wall.
Why do you want the wall?
Build the wall.
Why is it you want the wall?
Build the wall.
Tell me about why you want a wall.
Fake news. Fake news.
So how many of you are there? How many?
Are you gonna get in front of my face and then tell me not to touch you?
Sir, what's your name?
Excuse me, sir.
Don't
Is it
touch
fake
me.
news? Excuse me, sir. Is it fake news that there are more of us than there are of you?
You're the fake Donald Trump, aren't you?
No, I'm Donna. I'm not the president. I'm the president's worst nightmare.
Sir, did you pass by and notice the president?
No, no, sir. I'm actually on my lunch break. I haven't eaten.
Oh, you have to work on a national holiday?
I work. Yes, I pay taxes. This hat is a trigger for you, Major. Build the wall. Build the wall.
It's hard to be the only one.
You stop bumping it. Stop politely talking to me. You're the one following me.
Stop bumping into me.
I walk this way. You follow me.
Stop bumping into me.
Build the wall. Build the wall. Lunatic.
Ignore the pendejo. We need somebody who no resources for war, not more resources for enforcement, no ICE agents in our communities, no more investment for civilians. It's not just about trees and water or steel land. It is also for restricting and punitive immigration policies, but also for expanding surveillance of policing targets of police officers. Wrong measures does nothing to address the root causes of migration. It punishes the most vulnerable among us. We must mobilize to respond create a political pressure to support the legal challenges that will come with this undemocratic declaration.
I was hoping he was going to be here.
Let's continue pushing for more solutions that respond to the true emergency of our
This
time.
woman, you're like a speed bump as
To
you're
promote
driving.
education,
Stop if you leave.
Why would you talk to me?
Why do you want to walk? Talk to me.
What chance should I give her?
No one, no war.
No wall! No wall! No wall! No wall!
We need to stand up.
That's okay, there's only one of me. That's alright. I don't care. There are lots of. We are the silent majority. The silent majority. The silent majority.
Why do you want to?
Why do you not want to walk? Why do you?
If we are worried about drugs coming in, they're coming in through the ports of
Bullshit.
entry.
That's
If
because
we're worried
people-
about illegal immigrants, the numbers are way down. The people that are coming across are people
The
who are
reason that
fleeing
drugs
violence
and things are getting caught
horrible
at the ports of
conditions.
entry is because officials are at the ports of entry. They're not at the border where there's no wall.
Who live on the border?
Guess what? Those officials are corrupt usually.
That's
Yes.
not officials. I'm talking about property owners who
Dude.
don't want their property divided.
So when we all come together, stand up for one another, this is how we will win. Because when the people are united, this cannot be defeated. So come together, show up for one another, keep fighting for people who don't look like you, getting together.
He's a woman,
People
it's his
who
worst
love
nightmare.
differently,
He
worship
wakes up in the morning, he sees all this feminine video.
Thank you for fighting.
Today, who am I talking to?
No Trump! No back! No wall! No back! Get it out of my face! No back! Get it out of my face! No wall! No back! No Trump!
Let's all stay peaceful.
Excuse me? Intimidation?
Do not touch me. Do not touch me.
Although you touch me, you're going down.
Yeah, if he touches anybody, I'm gonna throw him on the ground.
Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
We'll leave you alone if you leave.
Typical, right? We'll leave you alone.
Conquers all. Love conquers hate.
No, absolutely not. I want him to be down.
Love conquers hate. 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 Love conquers hate.
I love that.
Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate.
Okay.
Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate.
Oh, yeah.
Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Hey, step away. Step away from him, sir. Sir, step away from him. This is my friend.
I love you guys too. Thank you.
Not really.
I love you and
Oh, you finally found a way to get around some women. Good for you.
Now I figure if he's a business owner, we need to know what his business is.
He probably can't find any women.
That's what I'm
Sorry.
trying to figure out.
okay?
So that,
Do you have a card?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you one.
Yeah.
well, it's,
Business. We want to.
you're not ashamed. Why would you give us a business card?
Well, no, this is a personal photo.
Yeah, I'm a businessman.
Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate.
Love conquers hate.
Yeah.
Somebody make sure you share with the real guy.
Great again.
What's America ever great? Explain that. You need to talk. You need to express yourself. When was America ever great? Tell
gentlemen, please step back out of the street for 5 seconds.
Hi, William.
Good to see me. I'm Priscilla. I'm also the real Donna J. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook.
He gave a shot. He did. He came right out.
America's always been good. Forever.
No, I'm right. We said it right at the election. He was the first one I heard.
It's always been great. America has always been great. Okay, explain that. Okay, what do you mean by America has always been great?
Do it. Do it. I'm blocking your view.
When were you on the
America has always been great.
Love to do it, but do it out of the street.
I'm trying to get away from that young man.
Why did you get
So step
what
back out of the
told
street.
you at your strings when she was talking to make me?
I just got there.
Well,
no, I've got hundreds of them.
You have to. But he's like a child.
I get everything in email.
He's done. He can't elaborate on his statement that America has always been great. So he left.
Hey, I got your passport.
Yeah, I am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, or even this young guy.
Marshall.
That's what she was talking about.
How you doing? Yeah, we've been out and about. Starting to do a lot more politics. Crazy.
It's only February.
Yeah. How about you? How you doing?
I haven't been doing a lot of politics. Last big thing was that really knocked me out, but I'm happy to be doing it.
Good, good. Yeah.
Walking around was a cop, right?
Yeah.
Watch out behind you.
He might be with them.
He got it. He had all those cameras pointed at him. He got it.
Y lo que se aprende son vidas. Muchas gracias.
No problem with
Just wait for him to push, touch, do something. Because I was going to play and say, he's like, I know what I can do. I know, man.
Welcome, Alice. You've been in here. Yes. I was the director of the food, and her sister is on the board at the time. I've known the family for many, many years.
That lady's in the middle of my wall off front.
Sometimes, yes, a lot of times they do. started asking me about my thoughts on AHAD. And when I'm able to like think about my thoughts and then write it out, I'm a lot more respectful and think about just really don't love the thing is that when you get me just like verbally, I don't know. Like sometimes there's value to saying that. Like slow down and like take a minute. Like they get really angry and push something just say, but they're not gonna just like scream at them. They're gonna be like, okay, that's crazy. But now I'm gonna like try to process that and respond to it, and not like if you can engage respectfully.
I don't like. I don't even like flag terms like generic flag.
Yeah, it's like okay, calm down, and now think about it and try to respond to it because like I can't stand it, and
Was it already done? Okay. Hopefully we'll be doing regular.
For years now, I walk dogs on the way. It's like I feel. And so when he asked me when I go on, I was like, oh my God, I hate them. They're horrible. They're bullies. They're like, yeah, there was an interesting article like a year and a half ago comparing APEX.
Hey, what's up?
They have that kind of it was written by a former staffer of the Hills. They are that much control on the Hills. They are the NRA.
Yeah, no, I think that
Starting to change.
how best to
Realizing, like, okay, let's think about this differently. But, yeah,
oh, I definitely get that.
I'm Jack.
But they still helicopter. We need another
Yeah, no, I'll leave credit for
Lots of vets in my family.
And I was hoping
more organized, you know. Yeah. No, that's on Wednesday. I'd love
I feel pretty intimidated.
I'm glad you're here.
I love TBA. Okay. Yeah. Conservation Bay, how are you?
To introduce Gregorio Casar.
Good afternoon. The border wall and Trumpism itself is built on this horrible idea that we know is not true in Austin, Texas. This horrible idea that people should be fearful of one another, that we should be suspicious of one another, and that in particular working people and black people and brown people and immigrants take rather than give. And representing District 4 in North Central Austin, in a district that is overwhelmingly people of color and immigrants and folks of all backgrounds, I know, not just in my district, but talking to people all across this wonderful city. Thank you. Okay, I'll be a little louder. But we know that that's absolutely not true, that the opposite indeed is true, that the people who are building these buildings and cooking our food and taking care of our children are indeed actually our greatest philanthropists. Isn't that right? That's right. People coming here for a better life, doing some of the hardest work, toiling the longest hours in our greatest heat, oftentimes for miserable pay. Doing this for so much less than they deserve, to the benefit of our entire community. That's why we know that the emergency is not at the border. The emergency is in our politics. The emergency is Donald Trump and Trumpism. And as we continue to resist this wall, we have to know that the wall is a symbol of that greater fear, a symbol of that bigger politics, and that we have to organize hard, not just against that wall, but against that idea that folks of color and working people and poor people take rather than give. And that's why I'm so proud to represent this city that I love, Austin, Texas, where we never give up and we never buy into that lie. Isn't that right? That's why as Trump and his cronies focus on lining the pockets of private prison companies and filling their jails with immigrants, instead, this year, we need to establish a public defender's office in Austin, Texas, to protect and take care of the people who do make it. That's why, as Trump and Trumpism is all about restricting people's movement and making sure that folks can't get around to take care of themselves and their families, that's why this coming election in 2020, we need to get rid of Trump and pass a bond to build a real mass transit system in this city so that way people can get around. We need to not just be a site of resistance, but an example of what a loving community and solidarity can really look like. What a progressive community that gives really looks like. What a community looks like when it embraces one another. What a community looks like that does not fear our difference, but embraces it and knows that our diversity is something that lifts us up. Am I right? The only national emergency is in the Oval Office. I kind of like that one. So please, as we continue this organizing, know that the wall is just a symbol of that sickness in our politics, and it gets rooted out every single day that we have an event like this, when we look at one another and know that we can build a counter narrative to what is being spoken at the White House. Y'all, let's do this thing.
Thank you so much, Greg. When working people are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrants are under attack, what do? Stop, fight back. When our Muslim sisters and brothers are under attack, what do? When our dignity is under attack, what do? Here we are back again. We just did this back in November with the Mueller firing rally. And here we are again. Because our POTUS was trying to put himself above the law, and he continues to try to do that. And now we are here defending our democracy and immigrant, Muslim, and black and brown communities from Trump's blatant power grab. I'm Karen Shark. This is Brian Register. We're your organizers today. We've got Adrian and Public Citizen. here in the crowd, and they are our invaluable partners. And Move On Central Texas, they have been incredible for me, and I really, really appreciate it. Now, to add insult to injury to this wall, our state blessing employees want to use rainy day funds to help fund the wall down there. Can y'all hear this better now? Okay. Come take this. So there are some people from Progressive Democrats of America that are circulating with some petitions that will be delivered. One of them will go to our delegation up in Washington, and it says, "We, the undersigned citizens of Texas, demand that our Texas delegation vote to override the alleged national emergency declared by President Donald Trump by majority of Congress. Vote immediately." And then the other one is a message to Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick. We are opposed to your plan to deprive our public schools of badly needed funds by spending $2.5 billion of our rainy day funds on Trump's wall. So thank you for PDA for your work. They're out there circulating the petitions. And thank you for their incredible work in electing good progressive Democrats. So our core demands for this is for Congress to overturn Trump's declaration and defund his anti-immigrant agenda. We demand that the House co-sponsor Representative Castro's House joint resolution to reverse the national emergency declaration. We demand Nancy Pelosi, Nancy as I call her, bring Castro's joint resolution to vote. We demand that the Senate co-sponsor the Raider Act of 2019 and bring that to a vote. And we demand McConnell sit down and be quiet and bring something to a vote for a change instead of being complicit. We want to defund Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We want to cut funding to ICE, and including a decrease in detention beds, agents, and border militarization in fiscal year 2020. We want to hold these agencies accountable for their abuses of power, from deaths in detention to family separation to tear gassing women and children on the border and their budget offenses. And we want to create safeguards to ensure that Trump is not able to attack immigrant communities with a fake national emergency in the future, and government agencies cannot terrorize communities. So those are the core demands for Move On. So Trump has created this fake crisis. There is no national state of emergency at any point along our 2,000-mile border with Mexico. He's using dangerous rhetoric to describe asylum seekers as an invasion force. Trump has whipped his base into a fearful band and seeks to retain their support in a time where he is losing support around himself day and night. There is no other support for this wall. The few Trump faithful senators and GOP congresspersons are putting party over Trump and over the will and needs of the people, and this cannot stand. Trump's fake crisis has created a real crisis, though. The administration's cruel family separation policy that stated intent was to traumatize families in order to dissuade them from coming is cruel beyond the pale. Learning that some of the children have been released to traffickers is absolutely intolerable. And tear gassing of women and children is just flat unforgivable. This dangerous power grab by an unhinged man. Workers have not recovered from his 35-day temper tantrum. It took more than a month for our employees in Congress and Senate to finally stand up for him, and they are our employees. Do not forget, every single one of them that works up there is our employee. In fact, there are some federal contractors that may not get paid from that whole debacle. But I want you to know what he's done here by declaring a national emergency. The president gains a lot of powers. He can seize bank accounts. He can seize commodities. He can seize and control all communications. He can assign military forces, and he can limit travel and movement within our country. Now, has he done it yet? No, but we're seeing that he is a spoiled, desperate, frightened, mean, angry, vengeful person, and he's mad at us because we don't like him. So I'm not comfortable with him having the powers to shut down telecommunication and internet and travel. So thank you for coming today. This event is one of hundreds around the country. We have speakers that we're going to present a wide spectrum of issues down around the border and what this means to a variety of different people. I'd like to introduce Christina Zinzun. She is the director of JOLT, which is an advocacy organization for Latinx and immigration policies. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? My name is Christina Zinzun Ramirez, and I'm the executive director of JOLT, an organization that I launched in November 2016, 3 days after the November 2016 election. And at JOLT, we're focused on getting more young Latinos out to vote here in Texas. And a lot of people ask us why we're called JOLT, and it's not an acronym. We're called JOLT because through the power of the Latino vote, we intend to be a shock to the political system of this state and the entire country. So when I launched JOLT in November 2016, I was 6 months pregnant with my first son. And I wasn't ready to launch JOLT. It had been my idea that Hillary would win and I would build JOLT slowly over time after my son was born. And then the prospect of starting a new organization with a new baby on the way was frightening. It was more frightening to imagine sitting on the sidelines under this administration and doing nothing. And so for me, this election of Trump and this wall, it's very personal for me. Because my husband is a dreamer. He came to this country when he was 8 years old and crossed that very border. With his mother that wanted to give him a better life, a better future. The same thing that I would do for my son. I would do anything so that my son could live free and with protections and live out his greatest talents. I don't call that a criminal act. I call what his mother did an act of love and courage. And what we know is that the politics of Trump and the politics of this wall is the same old news of how he's tried to run his presidency. The politics of division and distraction. So that we don't realize that what we have in common as black, brown, and white Americans, as immigrants and non-immigrants. And it would be funny if we could just laugh about the wall and what he's trying to build, a wall that isn't necessary when there are record-breaking, a lower number of people crossing. It would be funny if it weren't for the fact that the consequences of this wall and what it does to our communities isn't so real, so harmful, so painful. Because it's absurd to be building a wall and going, as he did just last month, to stand alongside a border next to federal employees that he's refused to pay for a month. That would be funny if the consequences weren't so real to the hundreds of thousands of Americans that live paycheck to paycheck and work for our government. And it would be funny if he weren't talking about trying to make a border even more difficult to cross when he's made it impossible for asylum seekers to come to this country safe and legally. And if the consequences weren't so real of a broken immigration system where 2 children in the month of December died in the hands of federal government agents. Those consequences are real. And so while the Trump administration likes to say that there's a crisis at the border, that we need a wall, we know there's not, that there is an actual crisis, but that we don't need a wall for it. That the crisis is that there is neglect and mistreatment of border communities across this state and country. That where we need $5.7 billion isn't in a useless wall, but in the fact that in the 2 counties along the border that have the highest uninsured rate, there is a crisis of health care. That there are modern American communities along the border that don't have running water and electricity that are Americans. That's the crisis we have at the border where we need billions of dollars. So as angry as I get sometimes, and as much as I know that the Trump administration has tried to make my world get smaller, to make my family feel scared and alone, the truth is that my world has gotten bigger. When I did that first rally with my family when we launched Jules, thousands of good Americans and Texans showed up to stand with my immigrant family. I now have Muslim brothers and sisters that we see our commonalities as Mexicans and Muslims. So my world hasn't gotten smaller, my world's gotten bigger. And I want the GOP of Texas and Trump to take a lesson. That as Texans, we don't take too lightly to be being pushed around and be told what to do with our land and our state. And that since Trump took office, there's been record-breaking turnout of Latino voters, young voters, and progressive voters in this state. So keep on pushing us, and we're going to push twice as hard. We're going to push back, and we're going to turn this state blue. And we're going to end the politics of hate, not just for an election cycle, but we're going to end the GOP as we know it here from Texas. So that's the power we have. And when we do, we're not just going to divest from building a wall and trying to turn our neighbors into our enemies. We're going to win universal health care. We're going to make living wage a right for every American in this country. We're going to protect the rights of our Muslim brothers and sisters. We're going to fight for immigrants and their families. We're going to protect the rights of the LGBTQ community. That's what we're going to win from here in Texas, and that's the power we have as one progressive community. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Isn't she something? We will continue to hear a lot from Ms. Nzun. I tell you what, she's wonderful. All right, now our beloved Congressman Lloyd Doggett is up there dealing with all that. So, but he did send his staff with a statement, and we've asked Jen Ramos to read his statement, and then she has some perspective to share about having grown up down in Laredo. Jen?
Hi again. So I am here to read the official greetings from Congressman Lloyd Doggett. Dear friends, I remain a strong and consistent no to Trump's wasteful wall of ignorance. Together, we must continue to resist his authoritarian power grab. Next week, I am hopeful that the House will reject his phony declaration by adopting a resolution of which I am a sponsor. The key question is whether the traditional Republican enablers in the House and Senate will join us in defending the Constitution, or will once again yield right away to the self-described stable genius. The only crisis at our border is the one Trump created by tearing children from their mother's arms and obstructing those legally seeking asylum here. These are not terrorists. These are people seeking to escape the terrorism of gangs and corruption. While I will continue working to check his power in Washington, the ultimate check is our people, united. Let's keep speaking up, showing up, and reaching out in creative, non-violent ways to help more of our neighbors to recognize one very significant threat to our national security: the lies, the bigotry, and the anti-immigrant hysteria of Donald Trump. Sincerely, Congressman Lloyd Doggett. So I do want to say thank you to Congressman Doggett for sending that statement. And as Karen mentioned, my name is Jen Ramos. And for those of you who don't know, I was born and raised in Laredo, Texas, which is on the border between Mexico and the United States. And contrary to popular belief, San Antonio is not the border. I would be more than happy to share many of my stories growing up, but I will just leave you this. My childhood home is less than a mile from Mexico. I can literally stand on my front porch of my own house and see the Mexico flag on one side and the U.S. flag on the other side. And I can tell you right now, if I call my family, they're not in crisis, they're bored. What people don't understand about living on the border, and what frustrates me most about this emergency, is that our border does not need a wall. It needs to remain united. Most of the communities across the Mexico-U.S. border have known nothing but unity and friendship and coalition building for the entirety of the existence of that border. We know nothing but commerce, we know nothing but friendship, and it's amazing to know that a lot of my friends go see their family on the Mexico side almost daily. They cross over to go to the doctor, go make purchases, to get an education, to come back and forth, and that's a part of what life is like on the border. And aside from, people who have negative things to say, who have never touched the border, I don't understand what this emergency is about. Because when I think of our relationship with Mexico, I think that Mexico is one of our strongest allies, and I think that we should work together to make our communities better. And it's disappointing to hear people like Chip Roy, my congressman, talking about a national emergency when the man has probably never been south of San Antonio. Let's be real here. But I'm never going to be able to see Chip Roy and hold him accountable. But that's why I'm asking you all to join me in holding him accountable by working to elect a new congressman to repeal and replace Chip Roy. By working together to repeal and replace John Cornyn. By working together to repeal and replace Donald Trump and send him back to Mar-a-Lago for the rest of his retirement. And the one thing I also want to touch that most people don't understand is I am a second-generation Texan. My great-grandfather came to this country as an undocumented immigrant, escaping the Mexican Revolution. My grandfather's first generation served our country. And to be here, to know the sacrifices that my family made, it's an insult to hear that the border wall is a national security issue, and to hear that it's a national emergency. What about Flint, Michigan, that doesn't have drinking water? What about the victims of sex trafficking that we are not solving in this country? What about those who don't have homes? And what about those who are suffering from mental illness? That seems to me like a national emergency. The wall is not a national emergency. And to grow up as a Latina on the border, we have a saying, no soy de aquí, ni soy de allá. I'm neither from here and I'm neither from there. You have to be twice as Mexican as the Mexicans and twice as American as the Americans to hold a cultural identity, and it's a struggle. But I have never been more proud to say that I am born and raised on the border, because that is my life and that is who I am. And I'm here to stand and defend all those who live there, who know it as nothing more than a quiet place to grow up and raise your family, because that's all we really want, isn't it? So I want to thank you all for being here and standing here today. But before we go, I just want you to think about all the Texans who live on the border. That wall is going to mess up people's homes, people's churches, those who are seeking refuge. It's going to mess up so many things that most people don't realize. And I have the honor of saying that I get to go back home this weekend. And when I do, I will think about all the people that are looking at me right now, who are here to say, we are not going to stand for this. And I will remind everyone at home that we have other people fighting to make this community the best place it can be.
Thank you, Jen. Coming soon to a ballot near you. I keep poking her. She's going to run one of these days. I'd like to thank, there's some elected officials out here. Vicki Goodwin. And Aaron Zwiener. Both brand new representatives, female representatives in our Capitol, flipping seats. Woo! And Stacy Suits, Constable Stacy Suits. I appreciate y'all coming and supporting us. Are there any other elected officials out there that I'm missing? Wait, yeah, he's coming. He's coming. Okay. Dr. Pritesh Gandhi is a physician in a safety net community clinic in Austin. He has focused his passion in caring for low-income families and creating a safety net in these difficult times. He received his BA from Tufts University, did a post-batch at Johns Hopkins, and then returned to Tufts for his medical school. He did residency in combined pediatric and adult internal medicine at Tulane, and has an enviable list of fellowships in the fields related to caring for people in poverty situations. He is a Fulbright scholar and has worked with children in slums in Mumbai. Please welcome Dr. Pritesh Gandhi.